To this now, public hearings have started at the International Court of Justice in The Hague to examine Israel's obligations in connection with its activities in the occupied Palestinian territory. Since March the 2nd, Israel completely cut off all supplies to the 2.3 million residents of the Gaza Strip, and food stockpiled during a ceasefire at the start of the year has all but run out. A number of nations, including the US, Russia, South Africa and China, are set to deliver remarks at the ICJ throughout the week. For more on this, let's now cross to SABC News correspondent William Denslow in Brussels. William, let's see if we can get you on. So, of course, this has been a case that's been long in the making. Just bring us up to speed in terms of what are we likely to see throughout this week. Interestingly, of course, presentations also will be made by Russia, South Africa, as well as the US at some point.
That's absolutely right. It's set to be an incredibly busy week for hearings. We know that more than 40 nations are expected to be taking part in these hearings taking place Monday to Friday in The Hague at the UN's top court, the International Court of Justice. You mentioned some of those countries there, including the likes of South Africa, the United States. We are largely expecting voices of condemnation regarding Israel's activities in Gaza and its decisions to block off aid to UNRWA, the UN's refugee agency that provides humanitarian assistance in the form of schooling, medical supplies and food to roughly 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. But there are expected to be some voices of support for Israel as well. Largely, we're very much anticipating what we can hear from the United States, of course, long seen as Israel's strongest backer. Hungary also expected to be a strong supporter of Israel at the court this week. When it comes to Israel themselves, well, they will not be providing oral arguments, but they have submitted a written statement to the court. Essentially, Israel's argument is that UNRWA is working on its sovereign territory in Israel. Therefore, it has the right to behave accordingly, considering it is on sovereign land. They also accuse UNRWA of being infiltrated by Hamas. That's something that's been refuted by the United Nations. They say that is a matter for United Nations internal investigations and not warranting for Israel to completely block off humanitarian aid for UNRWA. And since March 2nd, all aid agencies seeking to work in Gaza as well.
And we understand, of course, that, top Palestinian officials have already told the judges that Israel was blocking aid to use as a weapon of war. Perhaps, just give us a sense in terms of the talks that have always been centered around what is happening in Gaza between countries, particularly when you start looking at the Arab states that have been very influential in speaking out, while some at least. Just give us a sense, and then in terms of how they are likely to be giving their presentations in line of what we are hearing already from the top Palestinian officials. I mean, these are quite strong words, but they have used them before, that the humanitarian aid being weaponized for war.
Absolutely. You mentioned the response we've been hearing throughout the morning at The Hague from Palestinian representatives. They showed a number of very graphic pictures, including children, babies with their limbs amputated, with doctors' testimonials saying that because of a lack of humanitarian aid, these babies, these children, didn't have as much as a single painkiller during these amputation proceedings. The Palestinian representative described this as civilians enduring an endless death loop, and also saying that Gaza had been turned into killing fields. So incredibly graphic testimony from Palestinian representatives at The Hague. And this afternoon we're expecting to hear from Egypt's representatives. We'll be hearing from various Arab states throughout the rest of the week, and countries from around the world as well. Also, we've heard from United Nations officials really targeting a few areas that they believe run counter to Israel's obligations under the UN Charter. One targeting of UN facilities and aid personnel. It's estimated that nearly 300 UN workers have lost their lives in Gaza since October 7th, 2023. They also say that Israel is obligated to provide support for the UN to allow them to continue their operations in Gaza as part of the UN Charter. So strong messages, not just from member states, but also directly from the United Nations. But again, these are accusations that Israel has vehemently denied.
William, thank you so much for that update. William Denslow in Brussels there for us. Of course, these are significant public hearings which have started at the International Court of Justice. But many, of course, are asking themselves the what now, given that the ICJ has been tasked by the UN with providing the advisory opinion on a priority basis and with the utmost urgency, it says, while, of course, we are not expecting an immediate ruling, the advisory opinion will likely shape future international legal approaches, and this is what we are hearing on the ground.